On the 15th of April, 2021, the headlines in all the major newspapers and on TV news channels were about the COVID lockdown finally coming to an end. Masks were still required, and distancing was advised rather than enforced, but restaurants and businesses were open as normal. Britain was free, and I could legally run, with other people, around the country. A few days earlier, my good friend Andy had arrived at my parents' place in Cranbourne, Dorset. Andy has run many marathons with me around the world. We originally met through real work in the banking sector about a decade earlier and had bonded through a life of running. From what started as an occasional hello in passing, we began to venture out on extended lunch breaks for long runs and eventually formed a solid friendship. We both then left the corporate world for anything less mundane, Andy only recently having taken the plunge to turn his hand to business. He's annoyingly talented at making more or less anything, from small robots made of electrical components to bigger, more conventional things like extensions and theatre sets. I didn't want him for his construction skills, though. I needed Andy for his loyalty, his pragmatism, and his ability to dig deep when the going gets tough. Andy ran 19 countries with me on my 2018-19 Running the World expedition. And we bonded further. Run Britain would bond us like brothers. We just didn't know it yet. With only about 2 weeks until Go Day, Saturday, 17th of April, I got in touch with Andy and asked if he'd be my right-hand man for the attempt to run around the British coast in 100 days. I needed someone to drive the van, our portable HQ, which was to be our support vehicle as well as our home during the expedition. I knew I'd also need help with both the physical and the mental struggles of the trip, as well as with the logistics and basic supply concerns like food, water, and suitable places to rest and sleep along the way. My childhood bedroom at my parents' house, as well as somewhere I still occasionally sleep, has become home to my running collection, and there, surrounded by medals and mementos from countless marathons and running events, books by the runners and adventurers who have inspired me, piles of running kit and souvenirs from all over the world, I sat down to call Andy. He answered, and once he'd removed his dust mask, unmuffling his voice, I could hear that he was in an echoey room, a sign that he was at work in a half-renovated building. Once he'd finished coughing up some of the building dust he likes to inhale to keep his lungs in tip-top running condition, we covered pleasantries and then we got to the real reason for my call. Once I'd finished running through what would be involved, there was a pause while Andy took on board the extent of what I was asking of him. He said he was interested in principle, but he'd have to think it over before deciding. If I'm totally honest, I didn't expect Andy to say yes to supporting Run Britain. I could offer him only a pittance for his time, and it meant him giving up normal duties, turning down work, being away from his partner for over 3 months, and most foolishly looking after me. I desperately wanted him to say yes, and if I could have afforded more, I would have offered it. But funds were tight. They always are on these kinds of hastily arranged expeditions. Andy called me back a day later and confirmed he would indeed be there as my right-hand man. I was over the moon. I played it cool on the phone, but I knew what it meant. I had the best person in my corner to see this through. It gave me a huge boost of confidence. Throughout this book are snippets of Andy's diary, which he wrote daily while on the road. Andy must have a voice in this book, and not just out of some polite sense of inclusion. This journey was truly felt and experienced by both of us. Everything I felt, he felt. The physical side perhaps differed, but this was without a doubt as much of a sufferfest for him as it was for me. Without his heart, soul, and dedication, the challenge would have fallen apart within days. And this is not an exaggeration. He really did suffer, as you'll hear. Start line. T-minus 96 hours. Andy made the short train ride from Bristol to Salisbury, where I met him at the station. As he walked out through the doors, we exchanged a familiar look. Here we go again. We were some steps away from each other, but from the curl at the corners of his mouth, I could tell he was smiling. We were excited. So many times I'd met him in far-flung countries and seen on his face the same eager anticipation to share a mini-adventure together, but also knowing that misadventure was inevitable. It would be joyous, but naturally there would be unavoidable challenges too. This is, of course, what adventure, and indeed life, is all about. And we knew it. But whatever happened, to be able to embark on this journey was a privilege.